good. Okay, we're live. Excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for those of you who are able to join me here in person, and for those of you joining us on the live stream. Welcome to the K through 4 and Hughes AI Parent University. My name is Dr. Paluzzo. I'm the Supervisor of Educational Technology here in East Brunswick. I'm very excited to share this information with everyone tonight. We had a really successful secondary AI Parent University last week. We're very excited to speak with the elementary crowd and talk about specific things regarding AI and how that's being rolled out in our elementary schools. And I think one of the things you'll see throughout our presentation, if you've seen any of my past presentations at board meetings last year, if you were able to attend the AI Parent University in the fall, or I'm sorry, last spring, you'll see that we've been very thoughtful about this. We've been collaborative. We've been transparent. We have two websites here. If you go to www.ebnet.org/AI Center, that's kind of become our hub for all information East Brunswick related to AI, all of the teaching tools that we're using for staff, for administrators, for students, our guidelines, some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, our AIU scale that we've been using at the secondary level, and also future communications and information that we're going to share with all constituents, all stakeholders going forward is going to be there. So I encourage everyone tonight, if you're here, you're going to have all these slides posted on the website afterward. The video will be accessible. We've gotten a lot of hits on our stream from last week after the event took place, which has been really exciting, but you'll have all access to the slides and information there. If you have questions, I'll certainly be taking questions from the folks that are here tonight. If you're at home and you want to ask questions, there's not an interactive feature through the live stream, but you can reach out to me via email and send any questions that you have or suggestions. There's also going to be a feedback form at the end, so folks here, you'll be able to access that, and folks at home, you'll see a QR code come up. I suggest you have your phone out, and you'll be able to share any feedback, suggestions, recommendations for future parent universities as well, and things like that. So really exciting to be here, and I wanted to thank those of you who were able to join me both virtually and in person. So let's jump right into our discussion tonight. So when people hear the term AI or the phrase generative AI, these are the official definitions. These are from the state of New Jersey. And I think one of the things that I always like to point out to people is that AI has been a part of our life, been a part of our lives for a long time. Artificial intelligence, it's been part of the sci-fi culture. A lot of people think about different things with regards to machine learning. And when you watch Star Trek in the spaceship, you talk to the spaceship and ask it to do calculations and things like that. But in our life, AI has been a part of our life in many ways. A lot of the things that we see machines being able to do, reacting to different information, inputs, things of that nature. When you walk into, one of my favorite things, one of my favorite apps that's AI powered is an app called Shazam. When you walk into a CVS or you're in the supermarket late night and a song comes on, you're like, wow, what song is this? You open up Shazam, you click a button, and in about 4 or 5 seconds, it tells you what song is playing. You go, oh, I haven't heard this song in forever. So it's always a lot of fun. So those kind of apps, Alexa, Google, Siri, these things have, these are all AI powered tools that have been really important. You think of Excel functionality and things like that. AI has been part of our lives for a very long time. The thing that I think, when most people think about the AI that's been really impactful the last couple of years, what we're talking about is generative AI. And with generative AI or Gen AI, we're talking about AI that generates or creates content. It has the appearance that it's thinking and creating things, but it really is a response to input inside of these large language models, and it's really powerful, cool technology. But that's the relatively new wave of AI that we've been seeing, and that's where, with the launch of ChatGPT in November of 2022, that's where we've seen this wave usher in of what are we going to do about AI, or what's going on with this? Wow, it's really cool, or wow, it's really it's cause for pause maybe, and things like that. So these are the official definitions. They're very important, and these are some of the things that when we talk about this with elementary students when appropriate, these are the terms that they're going to learn, and they're going to learn about privacy and safety on the internet and all those things. So these terms are very important. But one of the things I want to make clear to parents who are watching, guardians who are watching, to students who might be watching as well with their parents or here tonight, is I want you to start thinking of AI as a tool. And just like the other tools you have up there on the screen, hammers, wrenches, screwdrivers, things like that. Does anyone know anyone here know what that tool on the far right side is? Anyone know? It's a glass cutter. Awesome. There's one person in every crowd. I've used this image in a few different talks I've done and trainings, and somebody usually gets it. Thank you, sir. That is a glass cutter, right? So when we're using a tool, you wouldn't use the glass cutter to cut wood, right? And you wouldn't use the hammer to put a screw in somewhere, right? Tools, it's all about what kind of project or what kind of goal you're trying to accomplish is going to depend on what kind of tool you're going to use. So AI is very similar. There's a lot that AI can do. I'm going to show you some really cool stuff tonight that I think, hopefully, for those of you who have used AI, you might be aware of some of these things. For some of you who are newer to AI, I hope that you're going to be pretty dazzled and amazed because it's some really cool stuff that it can do. But it's not going to do everything. Maybe it's a little bit more of like a Swiss Army knife where it has a lot of capabilities, but it's a tool. It's a tool, and we have to make sure that it's not a substitute for our thoughts, for our emotions, for our creativity and ingenuity, but it is a really great productive tool, and and a couple of things I'm going to share with everybody tonight is that it can be a really great thought partner and a really great work partner as well. But it's all about how you use it and using it appropriately. So when we talk about AI as a tool, I'd like to tell this story, and you might be thinking, oh man, like what does mustard have to do with AI and tools? Well, I'm going to share a quick little story with everybody with regards to mustard, because this story and mustard and AI, right? It's all connected for me. This is a problem that I had that AI helped me solve that convinced me that maybe there was something to AI, and ultimately led me to this work that I'm doing right now that I've been really excited about for just over a year. So I don't know if it was a byproduct of a couple things, maybe collecting of food, condiments, and items coming out of COVID, maybe some barbecues, when you get the value pack and you like the ketchup, the mustard, and relish, like, what do you always end up with more of, right? The ketchup goes quick. You use that on all, burgers, you use it for breakfast, you use it for chicken nuggets and French fries, but you always end up with a lot of mustard and a lot of relish. Well, at my house, we got the 2 packs with just the mustard, and then, we accumulated some other mustards from other areas. And I kind of had like a total dad moment where I was like, okay, that's it. We got way too much mustard here. I'm not throwing it out. We're going to find a use for it. I heard this AI stuff is really good with helping you, come up with different things and all this stuff. I'm going to find a use for all this mustard. We're not throwing it out. And that's it. And everyone in my house. I have 3 kids, 9, 6, and 4. So at the time, they were a couple years younger. And my awesome wife, they're just like, oh, boy, all right, Dad's on a kick. Just he'll calm down eventually, right? He'll be okay. He's on one of his kicks. So I went on AI, ChatGPT at the time, and I typed in, I have mustard, I have chicken, I have a few other ingredients. What can I do with all this mustard so I don't throw it out? And that was pretty much my prompt, some version of that. And what it spit back to me was 5 different recipes that involved mustard that were quick and easy to make and all sounded really good. I remember thinking, wow, all right, well, let me try one of these out. Like, I don't have hours and hours to cook. I have, on my way here tonight, I dropped my son off at soccer. My wife, we did the tag out. She's there finishing up soccer practice so I could be here. I ate dinner in the back of the control room with Mr. McMenamin, and, no mustard. Actually, there was some mustard in that dish. It was a leftover from last night that I made with one of my recipes. So I was so impressed with this, and I said, wow, maybe there is something to this AI. Maybe if it can help me with this, I wonder if I really took it out for a test drive, could it help me solve other problems that I had or other quick things, silly things, but other maybe more serious things that I need to work out? So for me, AI came to life and became a real tool for me when it solved this problem. So I always joke with people, like, find your mustard moment. If you're somebody who's really new to AI and you're not really sure to believe the hype, or you haven't had a chance to use it for some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, I encourage you to find a silly problem like mustard, or ask it to do some fun things, tell you a joke or something, help you write a nice message to somebody on a holiday maybe, those are going to be the things I think that open you up and go, all right, well, let's start taking this thing out for test drive and try it on some other things. Look for your mustard moment. It's one of my big, hopefully one of the big takeaways you have from tonight. So before we jump into the specifics about the AI guidance that's been shared with teachers in the K-4 schools, and then the guidance that's been shared with students and with staff at Hammarskjöld here at Hughes, I wanted to talk about some specific ways that you can use AI in your life. This is for the parents and guardians, but we have a student here as well, and maybe some students watching this as well. Some ways that you can use AI. And I just want to say for students who might be watching, if you're under 13, right, you have to make sure that, COPPA rules, Children Online Protection Act, right, Protection and Privacy Act. You want to make sure you're talking to your parents. You shouldn't be using these tools without parental supervision. And most of the terms of service agreements for the AI tools do require you to be 18 or over. So just make sure you check with your parents before you sign up for anything and put your information anywhere so that you can keep your information safe. A lot of our information is already out there. They'll make it easier. So make sure your parents know what you're doing, and parents, I would encourage you to have those conversations with your children as well. So how can parents and guardians use Gen AI? So two things up here that are really important. So drafting emails. So this is one of the things that could be a huge time saver. Writing a really good email could take a long time. And I know over the course of my career, I've been a teacher, educator for 19 years. I got my start as a teacher at Hammarskjöld in 7th grade history, went to the high school for a while, was instructional coach at the high school, was a department chair for social studies and media, and I've been supervisor of educational technology for just over a year. So I've written a lot of emails to students, to parents, to community members, since I've been a supervisor and an administrator, to all those groups, plus vendors and people who reach out and have questions and things. I like to write a lot of my own emails, and if you have ever sent me an email, it's likely that I responded to your email. Other times, if I was just having trouble with wording, or if I was just having kind of like a blip, like something's like, oh, do I need coffee or something? I do use these tools sometimes to refine or condense a longer message. And that's one of the really great uses you can use AI for. Some of the other things, crafting a really good email for a property manager, the mortgage company, a customer service inquiry if you're upset about something, trying to get a refund. It can be hard if you're not somebody who writes a lot of emails, or maybe writing's never been your strength. Gen AI can be a great tool to help you with those things. So I want to show you a couple examples here where you can use Gen AI to do this and how simple it really is. So in the first example, I know my kids go to Central School, 2 of my 3 kids, and one is he'll be there next year as a kindergartner. So he's a young guy in the family, still enjoying his being 4 and just having fun. And the others are having a blast at school, love going every day. We recently had the walk to school day. Now I didn't really email about this, but it got me thinking this would be a great scenario for parents. If we get a lot of emails, you got some Blackboard messages from me, I appreciate you reading those and not automatically archiving or deleting them. But let's say that you remembered, like, oh, we got that message, walk to school day, when is it? Oh, is there anything special I have to do? And let's say you lost the email and you wanted to send a quick message to the teacher. One of the things you could do is you can open up a Gen AI tool, and right here you have Copilot. And all I put in the prompt there is create an email for my 2nd grader's teacher, reminder about details for walk to school day event, apologize if the info was already sent. And just with a poorly worded sentence, really, with a couple of details, this generated a very solid email that I can copy and then paste right into an email that I'm creating. And so what you can see that I'm doing here is you take the subject, you can parse that out, you start to do some edits, right? And what you see me doing here in this process is this is the beginning of making sure the email is spoken with your voice. So I didn't give it critical details about the teacher or my child's name or anything like that. I gave it generic information because I always encourage people not to put too much personally identifiable information into an AI chatbot. Not a great idea. Like I said before, a lot of our information is already out there. Don't give it any more. So I gave it the gist, let it do the grunt work of making the email, and then I go in and with a few clicks, make sure it sounds right, maybe delete a couple words, maybe add a couple things, and then I can add in the salutation that I wanted to say, my name, my child's name, and voila. So something that might have taken me, maybe it doesn't take you a long time to write emails, but sometimes, like I said, depending on after a long day, maybe you're just tired. This thing can help you do that really well. Make sure you delete all the other stuff from the prompt, and you're all good to send. So that's a pretty impressive use of this tool. And, you know, I think that that's something that could be a real time saver, right? One of the other things that I talk a lot, that we deal a lot with is communication. And before I show this example, I just want to make clear a couple things. Like, number one, I think that we are able to best meet the needs of all learners and help every student when we have honest conversation, right? And sometimes honest conversation about student situations, it's not always, you know, sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes we have to have difficult conversations. Sometimes, you know, as a parent, you have every right to be upset about something if you feel like something isn't being done that should be done. So I want to show this example of how to revise an email, not to discourage anyone from ever being honest with their child's teacher or a building administrator or a curriculum administrator or somebody else that works for the school. But I also do want to say that I think generally we would all agree that if we keep the conversation civil, direct and honest but civil, and we keep the tone such that it remains civil, that we can get to a resolution faster when we do that. So one of the things that sometimes happens with email, and I've been guilty of this myself, I've been angry, fired off an email to someone in my personal life and maybe even someone at work, and maybe it didn't strike all the right tones that I wanted, and you click send and you feel good for about 5 seconds, then you go, ooh, all right, maybe that might not be the most helpful. I don't think that really helped the situation, you know? And you might be like, oh, I probably should have checked the tone. And sometimes even when you do those things, it's hard to tell tone through email. Sometimes a very innocent email could come across like, well, what's that supposed to mean? And you're like, oh, no, I was just saying like, yeah, I guess we'll talk about it later. I didn't mean like, I guess we'll talk about it later, but it's hard to do. Tone is really difficult sometimes through email. So in this suggestion, you'll see there's a scenario where maybe, you know, as a parent, you're upset about something that happened, and one of the things that you can use AI to do is run it through a filter. Ask it to just check for tone, and then it'll help you produce that email so that the communication is direct and honest, but is getting us closer to a resolution, right? And the other thing I'll just say, too, is if your situation isn't getting resolved after 1 or 2 emails, I think the next email should be, let's set up a time to call, for a call and talk on the phone. And I'm a big fan of technology, obviously, but I also believe in a blend of old school and new school. So if you can't get that resolved through email, recommend a time to call, and I think that's always a good way if email is not able to resolve it. So I say all those things to say, here's an example here. My first grade child came home from school. She was upset about the reading group she was put in. Other kids distracted her, said mean things. This is ridiculous, unacceptable. Write me an email to her teacher. Be direct. I'm upset, but be polite. And what you can see here is it started to put together that email. And when you use Google's Gemini, you have a couple options. If you have a Gmail account, you can have a Gemini. Then you have access to Gemini. You can have it sent to Gmail, or you can copy, paste it into a Word doc, or if, in this case, an Outlook email. And what you can see here that it did was it took my anger and some of the frustration that was in my email or that was in my message. I didn't even really give it that much information. And I hope that's one of the things you're seeing is you don't have to give it information. I didn't say the kid, you know, my kid's name. I didn't say the teacher's name. I didn't really even give too much information. I just told what the situation was and why I was upset. And it helped formulate an email that expresses concern, what happened. She was quite upset today. She was being distracted. I understand grouping students can be a challenge, but I believe it is important that every child feel comfortable and supported, right? These are things that are important, right? These are facts of the situation. These are the feelings that you feel, but it's done in a way that asks for, you know, explanation, but also, hey, how can we move forward from this? I want to work together. So it checks that tone for you, and it makes the next phase of the conversation one where maybe there's an explanation. You know, sometimes there's other information, there's other facts that you're not aware of. You know, you weren't there for the situation. Maybe the teacher didn't realize these things were happening. Oh, thank you for telling me that this happened. I will take care of it right away. So I think that, once again, I want everyone to be honest, direct. I'm a big fan of transparency and honesty, but also keeping the tone of the conversation. Civil is important. And like I said, if you get to an email back and forth where you're not getting a clear answer, or just maybe something's getting lost in the sauce of emails, that next email should say, let's set up a time for us to talk. And that's great, because then we're getting closer to resolution. We're helping kids, and that's what it's all about. Makes sense, right? So I hope that's a pretty cool example and a good situation to see. So another example I want to show is more about the second situation, dealing with a property manager or customer service complaint. This one is a situation where somebody emails their property manager about a heating issue in their apartment. So we'll take a look at this one. This is on ChatGPT, the tool that started the whole Gen AI wave as we know it. Create an email for a property manager, Ms. Suarez, explaining the heat is not working, thermostat's not accurate. I'm very upset. So it creates this email. And as I was doing this video, I remember saying, like, that's a longer email. So my next part of the prompt is condense to 2 paragraphs. And then you click send, and you'll see it takes that message above and kind of shortens it. It doesn't take out any information that I didn't want taken out, but it condenses it to 2 paragraphs, right? I can copy that and paste it into my email. And very quickly, I'm expressing, that I've reached out. Despite multiple times over the past week, I have not received a response. You're being direct, you're being honest, but it's not, you're not challenging anyone to a fist fight or anything, or making any threats or anything that might not resolve the situation, but you're moving the ball forward, and you're creating a document, your situation where you're documenting what happened, and you're trying to get closer to a resolution. So I think these are really great examples. I didn't give the AI tool my apartment number. I did that afterward, right? I did give in the prompt Ms. Suarez, name. I probably could have left that out of the prompt, but I don't think that's too bad. I didn't give any specific necessarily information there, but you can see that that's a really helpful tool. Very quickly, lodging a complaint. You deserve to have your heat working, and making sure that you're moving that ball forward is really important. A couple of other areas, right? So homework assistance, this is a big one. And I've experienced this. Like I said, I have a daughter who is a 4th grader, and I have a son who's in 1st grade, and another one coming up. One of the big things I've talked a lot with parents at both elementary and secondary level about AI, people are very concerned, especially at the secondaries, about academic integrity and people using AI to cheat, which, it does happen. And we've put in place different things that I'll talk about in a little bit to try to mitigate some of that, talk about creating a culture of collaboration with our teachers and students. But I think that there really is some value for parents when it comes to homework help. I'm lucky enough, my wife is a great math teacher. I was a history guy coming up and learned more about technology, did my dissertation in cybersecurity in schools. So I know a little bit about history, know a little bit about technology. Math, I do okay. I've done all right, but I wouldn't say my strong suit. So this is one of those things when it comes to simple math or complicated math, or maybe all math is complicated. I know I've felt that way certainly a lot of my life, where you can use AI tools not to get the answer for your kids, not to just do the problem and get it done, but you can ask it for help on how to help your kids answer these questions without doing it for them. So I have a really great example I'm going to show you in a second about that. Another thing that it can do is help with dinner ideas. Now, I told the mustard story. I have a fun example here where you chicken and a couple of other ingredients, and it can very quickly give you some recipes. So I want to keep it light and fun, things that are practical and helpful, but also some things that will help you with your kids with homework. We've all had those nights, if anyone who's a parent with kids around my age and older, where it's like, all right, we should be getting ready for bed. Oh my goodness, it's late. Like, how are we doing this right now? And you want to help your kid, with that assignment, but you don't want to do it for them. So you're trying to find that balance. And so I think that what you'll see with this next example is something that's pretty cool. So this is a Hughes grade 5 math problem from one of the units that they're working on right now. And what you'll see here is I use an AI tool called Claude. Claude AI, really great tool. And all the tools that we're talking about tonight, they have free versions that are available as well. And you'll see in this example what I do. So I'm the parent of a 5th grader. Help me explain to them how to complete this math problem. Put the math problem in. And then what you see here is I'm happy to help explain the math problem for your 5th grader. And it creates the different steps for you to assist your child as they go forward to answer the question. Not just giving them the answer, not doing it for them, but it basically writes you a script so that you can help your child if they're getting, having that moment of frustration. If they get stuck on one of the points, you can help them. Now, at the end of this prompt, it says, to make this more engaging, you could use actual bills and things, which is like, oh, that's pretty cool if I had that much money lying around, right? Would you like me to elaborate on any part of the explanation? And so I start typing in here, yes, break down steps I can take to help my child complete this problem without doing it for them. That's the critical piece of this, right? And one of the things, I fixed the spelling error, but if you left it and just hit enter, it would know what you were going to say anyway. So I ask it to break it down even better. So here's a step-by-step script that you can use to help your child. Now, in the next example you're going to see, and I'm a big believer that in leadership, whenever you give advice, I find within 24 to 48 hours, I'm given an opportunity to follow my own advice pretty quickly. And so as I was developing these tools for the AI Parent University last week and this week, and I was like, oh, this is a really neat tool. My daughter came home and had an issue, and I was able to use this strategy pretty effectively. I'm going to show you in a second for 4th grade. But you can see it gives you step by step. So as your child is trying to get through the problem, and that moment of frustration, like I was saying before, you're like, it's past bedtime, we got to get this thing, well, let's get this thing rolling, let's go. And but you don't want to do the work for them. You don't want it to just do it to get it done. You want them to have that productive struggle, get to the next step. This is a great tool to help you get there. And then if you have a situation where your child's still struggling, you can explain to the teacher in an email, in very friendly manner, as we showed before, where the child had some problems and where they might need some help, or here's how we did this. And that's a great way to communicate with that teacher, so you're understanding where they are understanding where your child's at, and you're able to help them as well. So here's the mental math. So I did this with my daughter. This was last week, and you can see I'm on my personal Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, you can access Gemini. And so I explain, what is mental math? This is civilian Herb Paluzzo as a dad, trying to help my 4th grader with mental math. I read this. I read what was in the Envision textbook and some of the online resources that parents have. I'm okay, that matches up. And then I give it the problem, use mental math. Similar to the previous example, breaks down step by step all the information. And then just like I did in the other example, I asked for that same script. How can I help my child, without giving them the answer, and go down, visualize, break down the numbers. And what I found when I did this with my daughter was that by the time I got to like step 2.5, my daughter went from being really frustrated to, oh, Daddy, I'm really sorry. I got it. I know. I remember now. I'm sorry. I'm just tired. No, it's okay. Hey, let's keep going. You're hanging in there. It's okay to get frustrated. Finish it up. I'll check it after, and then we're ready. Let's get ready for bed. Clearly we need some sleep. I know I do, right? Like, I'm sure you could use a little bit of sleep, and it made for the whole trajectory of bedtime and the end of the night changed. And a lot of it was because of it started with the tools we have available, and then with the assistance that I was able to get from Gemini there. So I think this is a really great tool. I think helping with math homework tends to be an area where I think I hear a lot of situations where parents struggle. It's difficult. This is hard stuff, even in 4th and 5th grade. It's tough. So I think that if this can be a tool, a bridge, to help students remember what the teacher taught them in class, like my daughter was having, or if it's a situation where they're having a little more trouble and they just maybe needed a little bit of reinforcement or presented a different way, now when they go back in the next day, they're more confident. And they can talk to the teacher about these things. And I think that that tension that sometimes happens because of frustration goes away and it can help. It's not going to, there are no magic wands in education, but these are some pretty powerful tools, I think, that can help kids and parents, too. So this is a fun example. I was talking about dinner ideas. So this is a tool called Perplexity, which is a really great tool, free tool. I have mushrooms, pepper, spinach, chicken legs in my fridge. Please provide me 5 easy dinner ideas. At the top there, you saw it cites all the information, so you can click on the websites to see the actual recipes. But right in the generated content there, you have 5 rather, pretty good recipes. And I was just reading through these. I was like, I'm going to save this one. This is pretty good. And you can copy paste them into a Google Doc or a Word doc or whatever, wherever you want to do these things. One of the nice things Perplexity does is it also gives you follow-up questions at the bottom. Some of the other tools do this as well. So let's say you're like, oh, you know what? We're having friends over. They're vegetarians. We're going to respect their dietary needs. Give me some vegetarian alternatives and provide you with that as well. As I said before, you don't need to create an account with Perplexity. You can go to it, and it kind of has a feel of like a search engine, which is pretty neat. So you can use it without creating an account, and you can see pretty neat ideas. And you could kind of get lost in the rabbit hole pretty good with a lot of these other search queries that are there. So whether it's helping with revising emails, whether it's helping your children with homework, or trying to plan dinner, a lot of great uses for AI. Last area is for some work-related tasks. I know depending on your work that you do, I think that this is one of those areas where I talked to a lot of my friends who are in the corporate world. Many of them are using these tools, and if they're not, they kind of feel like they're maybe getting, they're falling behind or taking them longer to get some stuff done. So there's great ways to write reports, time management, making to-do lists, all really important, right? So here's an example of using this. So let's imagine that I just took some rough notes. I'm working at a management, I'm in financial management. I'm at the Q2 management meeting, and I want to organize all my just like random notes that are grouped together. So I just ask it, organize it in an orderly fashion, and very quickly it took that glob of notes that was just in a big paragraph, and it very nicely bullet pointed all those. So I have all that information, the date of the next meeting. I can copy, paste that right into a Google Doc or an Excel sheet or a Word doc, and I have a very nice list. You can see that in Copilot, you have these other examples here, which are really neat. Our teachers and our teachers have access with their EBNet accounts to Copilot and Gemini, and very safe. There's extra firewalls around to protect any of the data that's shared there. Students at Churchill and higher have access to Copilot. They've been able to assure us, Microsoft, who owns Copilot, that they have extra safeguards in place to protect student privacy, blur out any information that, if some private information or names were mentioned, that it'll blur those things out. And it also doesn't return back to the large language model to train the large language model on how to answer questions better. If you use one of these other tools with a Gmail account or your Outlook account, that's part of why I was saying before to make sure you don't share too much personal information, because all your prompting data goes back to the large language model and trains it on how to do those things better, which is fine if you're not sharing anything that is proprietary or private, but just want to make that clear. So we take the proper safeguards in East Brunswick for our staff and student use. They have pilot access to some of these other tools, which are really neat. But Copilot and Gemini, you have that extra layer of protection. And that's the case, too, in corporate America. Other entities like that have enterprise accounts that protect proprietary information that you don't want going into the large language model. This last one here, I don't know about anyone else here, if you're with your spouse or you get a to-do list and sometimes you're just talking into the Notes app on your phone or something like that. So this was a fun one. Create a to-do list for me with the following items. Make sure you get the kids to soccer, some laundry, pick up dry cleaning, and a gift for Nona, because why not? She's awesome, right? So very quickly created that list for me that you can copy, paste, or have it put in a draft into a Gmail email. You can have it make a checklist or put check boxes next to it. So if I wanted to print it out, you can have it do that. So I can check off each as I complete it. And you could, like I said, there is some research that says if you say please to large language models, that it does help with the results. I think it's just nice to be polite anyway. But you can see it puts a little, little checkbox there. And in Gemini, you can copy, paste it, as I was saying. or you can export it right into Gmail or put it right into a Google Doc, and it'll go right into your Google Drive, which is pretty cool. So these are just a few examples that I wanted to share with everybody, because my big takeaway for the folks watching at home and folks here was to, what's something you could do right now? Like, what's a problem or an issue or a task that you've been putting off, or something that you need to get done, that you need to get done right now? You can do those things with any of these Gen AI tools. The district doesn't endorse any one over the other. We do, like I said before, Copilot and Gemini for safety reasons. Those are the ones that we recommend the staff use. And we just say, be careful using the other ones, Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT as well. Couple big takeaways. I'm going to get into the guidance information, which is really important in a second. But two of the things I keep saying to our staff and some of the older students, Churchill and the high school, as we talk about these things, is to start thinking of Gen AI as both a thought partner and a work partner. And I think that sometimes when people hear that, it's a little scary. It's a little, think of a thought partner as like your colleagues. And I'll tell you, I have some of the best colleagues in the state. Our team, when we get together as a curriculum team and trying to solve problems and help kids, working with the building leaders as well, these are great thought partners. But one of the things that I've also found is that when we give certain survey data, or we're looking at large data sets, we're crunching information, we're putting things together, we're sharing out ideas. One of the things that I've been able to do with like Google Forms and other survey data and things like that is you take away all the personally identifiable information, you assign it numbers or letters, and you can ask AI to crunch that data. Help me find the common themes within a survey. Help me find the outlier information. And what I found is that when you take that information, Gen AI produces some thoughts about it. You can then go to your colleagues, your human thought partners, and you can have really rich conversations about, well, should we do this in first grade, or should we look at this in fourth grade, or how can we do better with this program at Churchill or the high school? And it's made those conversations much more rich and thoughtful because we were able to take large data sets and get some the information processed and analyzed, and then talk about it after. So thinking of it as a thought partner, like that friend that you call every once in a while to share some things, and you have to say, when was the last time we talked? It's been a while. Where did we leave off? Well, if you use any of these AI tools that archive your thoughts, you don't have to do that. It knows where you left off, and you can pick up that conversation right where you left off, which is pretty cool. When I say think of it as a work partner, I think of a lot of like the grunt work, like those emails you had to get back to, some of those lists that you're generating, creating those those meeting notes and summarizing, getting them sent out to people on your team, family events that you're trying to plan. This has been a great tool for a lot of those things. So I think one of the things that I'm trying to encourage people to do is to get over that fear you have about thinking of this as a thought partner and a work partner. I think that's going to be a really big help for all of us for all the different things that we're trying to do. Very busy people get things done. But very busy people can use help as well, and I think that this is a great tool. Thought partner, work partner. So let's dive into a little bit about the guidance and some of the things that we're talking with staff about. Now, like I said before, with the students, the big takeaway that I hope you get out of this tonight is when we're talking about elementary students, we are not opening the floodgates for elementary students. We think it's very important that we lay the foundational principles of what learning look like: reading, thinking, math, all the rich electives that we have at the elementary level. We want students to be able to use technology safely and to build those skills out. It's very important. When we talk about exposing elementary students to AI, it's in a very thoughtful, methodical, controlled manner. The K-4 situation, we're talking about third and fourth grade with the media specialists, the same way that they talk about computer literacy, privacy, security, and all those things. When we talk about Hughes, we're talking about controlled pilots in certain classes or certain units. Empowering teachers to think about these things, say, hey, I would love for kids to be able to see how this works. And so it's monitored, it's controlled very much in a safe way. But for teachers, we've been encouraging teachers to say, look, if this can help you with lesson planning, generating better test questions, generating better essential questions in your lesson plans, and guiding questions for discussion with your students, that's where Gen AI can be a huge, huge help, huge help. So With the exception of Meta AI, the other tools are the ones that really I've been encouraging staff to use. There's another tool called Magistro that's been a great tool for teachers, but these have been the tools, and you've seen that those 5 are what I was using as the samples in those other examples earlier. So I've been telling staff, like I said before, Copilot and Gemini, you have access with your EVNet account, and those safeguards are in place. If you have a Gmail account, you have access to Gemini. If you have an Outlook account, you can get on Copilot very easily. Perplexity is one. You don't need an account. You can jump right on and start using it the same way that you jump on Google and start searching for things. A lot of folks in the AI community, my fellow nerds, as I like to say, is a term of affection, that Claude is a very popular tool. People like the layout, the presentation, the large language model. So these are the tools that have been approved for pilot use. I started adding Meta AI into some discussions because I think that folks who haven't taken the leap with AI yet, I think this is the first place that a lot of people are going to encounter AI. And if you don't believe me, if you open up Facebook or Instagram right now, the search bar that's at the top, it has that Meta symbol there, that infinity symbol. And unless you're searching for like an old friend from high school or something, if you're talking about like a topic that's going on in the world, or you're trying to search for something, a certain group, and you click enter or you hit search on your phone, it's going to have an AI-generated response to that. Some of you, I see a few folks maybe nodding right now where you might be saying, oh yeah, that's right, it gave me an explanation about the Mets and the Dodgers, and I was just looking for what time the game started or who was commenting on it. So that's one of the first places, I think, if you haven't taken that leap with AI, most people have Facebook or Instagram, and you're going to see that that might be their first point of contact. So I've been talking about that more. One of the neat things when you're on a computer, on a laptop using Meta AI, is you can ask it, like, imagine a cloudy day with a unicorn flying in the sky, and in real time it will generate, you'll see the image like change shape, and it will create that image in real time, which is pretty cool. So there's like serious uses for it, and then there's fun. And I think that when you keep the fun in learning and you keep the fun in learning these things, I think that's where we all learn best. That was always my motto in my classroom, and it's continued as a supervisor as well. So let's talk a little bit about the overview. So this is really important, and I want to make clear that this wasn't like a Herb, Dr. Paluzzo project here. When I applied for when Dr. Valesky, Dr. Boley, and the Board of Education created the position of Supervisor of Educational Technology just over a year ago, and I'm privileged enough to apply for the job and interview, my whole thing with Dr. Boley was I think we need to take a collaborative approach to this, and we need to get our best people. We have super talented teachers, K to 12, and we need to get them together, and we need to talk about what the best way to move forward. What are we thinking about? What have we not thought about? And we need to work together. We need to get our best together. And I don't want just people who are, the folks that always sign up to do things on committees or groups, or people who are super techie. I want a little bit of everybody. I like healthy skepticism. I like people who are skeptical but interested in solutions. So we put together a working group we had a K4 working group, we had a Hughes working group, we had a Churchill AI working group, and a high school working group. All different departments, grade levels. And what we did was we met 4 or 5 times over the course of last year. And this vision here, this overview, was a direct result of those conversations and that work that we did together. Very important stuff. And it was great to be able to build that vertically articulated vision so that we're building towards something. We're not just throwing the spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. We're thinking, we're discussing, and bringing research in. Hey, everybody, I read this article. What do you think? How would this work? Would this work in the classroom? What do you think? So this vision here was a direct result of all that. And as I said before, K to 4, AI is teacher-facing. We have staff guidance that I'm going to show you in a minute. Staff used for various job-related tasks. We're talking about student AI awareness and limited pilot lessons. Once again, very limited scope. We want to be very careful and we want to be cautious. I was on a call today with a vendor who had a really neat product, and I've seen a lot of these demos, and my first response is, okay, let me go back and talk to the team. I want to see what's out there, but we're not overcommitting to anything. We're going to be thoughtful about this, and we're going to see where maybe a pilot is a good idea, or maybe the answer is not right now, but we'll talk later. And so I think that that's really important. So when we talk about limited pilot lessons, we're talking about specials, we're talking about media, and maybe in certain classes, if teachers are ready to do a small pilot, we'll talk about how to do that safely. At Hughes, mainly teacher-facing as well, but we did create student guidance that is about ed tech and AI is included in there. Because I can tell you, last year we had some situations where we had to talk to kids about, that not supposed to just copy-paste work from ChatGPT or somewhere. And it wasn't there was not an overly disciplinary tone to it. We talked about why that wasn't right and the right way to use it. And those experiences were good for the student to learn, but also for us so that we could put together a strategy. We said, okay, next, when we get this guidance together, here are some points we have to make. Here's how we can help teachers have those conversations with students, move the ball forward in a productive way. I was interim assistant principal for a couple months a few years ago here at Hughes, and one of my biggest things I used to say to students was, hey, learn the right lessons. Learn the right lessons from this experience. And we're all learning lessons the whole time we go forward with AI, staff and students. So it's about skill development, certain classes, units, and lessons as well. And then when we get to the high school, we had to put some more safeguards and guidance in place because a lot of our Churchill and high school students, they're on, they have the apps downloaded. So we had to take a little bit of a different approach, but I think it's been pretty successful so far. We've had a lot of really great conversations. We're forming student groups at Churchill and the high school to help us navigate those things and do it productively. So on the AI Center webpage, ebnet.org/AI Center, or you could just Google EB AI Center. It's the first result that comes up, which is pretty great. You can see all these guidance documents. I'm not going to dive into the 7 to 12 documents specifically, but if you want to go see how the vertical articulation trajectory is going on, I definitely encourage everyone to go and check those out. Also, the AI use scale, this is something that was developed for Churchill and the high school. I just had a grant from the East Brunswick Education Foundation for magnets for every classroom at Churchill and the high school. These are going to go on the boards. There's the bear face, the EB bear. You're going to be able to move, the teachers can move that magnet to any of the levels there for the secondary students. So we're really excited about that. So I would encourage you to go on and look closer at that. But for elementary, once again, we're talking about awareness. We're talking about piloting. We're talking about very controlled opening of access to students only when appropriate and safe, right? So let's look at the guidance for the staff and the staff and teachers rather here at Hughes. You see, it talks about why technology is important to use, how it can assist everybody with numerous tasks, what our mission is here as tech tools and AI evolve. We continue to build our own capacity while upholding our core principles in every classroom, right? The foundational principles of what make for good teaching and learning, those aren't going to change. The tools we use and how we get there, that's what's going to change, right? So we talk about specific guidance. We talk about equity and communication, planning and assessment, differentiation and support. Those are specific slide presentations that teachers can use that drill down. So if they're having specific issues or have specific questions about those things, they have tools and resources available that they can use, but they also, I've had many sit-downs, coaching sessions with teachers as well that are really important. So it lays everything out very nicely for them and gives them the proper guardrails that they need as well. Talking about prior to assignments, we should be clear with students about, not just about AI, but teachers should state whether or not collaboration, outside sources, or technology tools such as AI are permitted for use. And we ask teachers that, if we want students, I always believe this as a teacher, we have to be clear in our communication with students. That's really important. If we want them to do certain things or to not do certain things, we have to be clear in our communication. So just reiterate some points that, a lot of our teachers do really well and are the foundation of good teaching. Just remembering that with AI and other technology, it's important to do that. Citation guides, spent a lot of time this summer pulling from different universities and different resources to make sure we had the most up-to-date MLA and APA citation guides there, which teachers have really appreciated. The student guidance, let me see. So the student guidance, just walks through with students about different pieces that are really important. They're going to encounter technology tools that can help them learn and complete tasks more effectively. It's important to follow directions. Make sure they're listening to their teachers, that they know what's appropriate, that they talk to parents. Like, those things are really, really important. Some of the types of technology what are some of the type of technologies that you might use? We use the Q&A format because we found that for both the students at Churchill and the high school, but also our students here, is that's an easy way for them to understand what we want them to do and how important that is. And it's not just about AI, it's about all the different technology. And that was a big thing that the working group talked about was, well, we don't want to just lead with AI. We don't want this to just be about AI. We want it to be about all technology because, just like we said at the beginning, technology is a tool. It doesn't mean it's always the answer to the problem or that it's the best way for them to complete work. But we also know that we live in 2024 and that technology is critically important. So it's about appropriate use, right? Are students allowed to use technology tools for school assignments? It depends on the task, right? And it goes through specifically, right? We're very pro-tech here, right? I'm the supervisor of educational technology, but I always tell people it's like educational technology, right? When I go in and observe teachers, it's like, well, I didn't use technology. I'm like, yeah, you did. How did you put that? You organized the groups. So you communicated it on the slides and you thought about it, or you prepared that reading for them to do, or you organized the problems there and then they worked in groups. You did use technology. The kids were conversing about it and doing it on paper, or they did part of it on a computer, but of course you use technology. It's educational technology, right? That's the critical piece of this that we don't want to forget. So with students, it's the same thing, right? Yes, you can, but it depends. And, when you're not sure, when in doubt, be honest and just ask. It's very important, very important. So I think that we put these documents together. I hesitate to say that they're perfect because one of the things that we realize is that, there's always a better way to communicate. It's always important to have conversations with and we're going to keep the AI working groups together. We're going to have some new members on there this year. I'm excited to begin those meetings over the next couple of weeks and the next month or so, getting some feedback about how this is going. What's going well? What are some things we need to clarify? What resources do you still need? But I think that so far this has been a really positive experience, and it's been positive for the kids. When it comes to our K-4 guidance for teachers and staff, remember, we're not, as I said at the beginning, this is not something where we really believe K-4 students should be using a lot of AI, that if and when they're using it, it's in a very controlled situation. I think there's some opportunities maybe by the end of third grade and in fourth grade in media lessons with a media specialist, and maybe in other courses and other specials or units of study within certain subject areas. Those are areas that we're exploring and we're looking at very closely. We want to be thoughtful about those things. So for the K-4, we have guidance for teachers and staff. And very similar to what we have for Hughes, talking about how it can enrich the classroom, some ways that teachers can use AI, reaffirming what our goals are. Our goal is to strike the right balance between technology use, AI awareness, and nurturing essential skills. So, and I believe that, we've consistently produced excellence in K-4 schools, and in technology that's been no different because we've been thoughtful about it, we've talked about it, we're being collaborative. And we're not rushing to do anything, but we're not afraid to innovate and try new things either. We talked about equity, communication, planning and assessment, differentiation, and support. So these outline specific recommendations and ways that teachers can use it. And I just want to talk about equity for a second. That equity is extremely important, and some people might hear that and go, what does equity have to do with AI? One of the things that we found in the early versions of AI is that AI can be a great equalizer for students who maybe don't have access to some of the resources that other students and other families may have. Some of the tools that you're seeing about the math problems and things, but certain writing assistance and things like that, it could be a huge help for students who maybe don't have, whose parents don't have the means to maybe pay for tutors and things like that. But the important thing is that we also have to keep in mind that when we ask it questions about certain topics, that it may have a little bit of bias that's built into it. And we do have to be careful and mindful of that. Image generators with AI have had some problems with equity as well. If you ask it to create an image of students in a classroom or students on the playground, I've seen many times where AI tools do that in a very equitable way and represent the community that you might live in. And I've seen other examples where it maybe doesn't do that. Sometimes you have to be more specific with your prompting to make sure that it does that well. Other times, it does it on its own. I always remind people that, AI and AI algorithms and large language models, just like the humans that created it, are imperfect, right? And, welcome to Earth, right? Nobody's perfect. But those are things that we have to be mindful of and that we have to talk to students about and then we have to talk to staff about. So while it may not be a quick connection, you're like, what, equity AI? It is something that is very important. It's why that there's been a big push to make sure that there are diverse voices in coding and in the back rooms where these algorithms are developed so that the information that's being shared out represents the world population and our communities and make sure that that information is being shared appropriately. So just wanted to say a couple things on that, which I think are important. So planning and assessment, differentiation and support, and then redirecting people to the ed tech and the AI websites. So I got a couple minutes left here, and I want to make sure we have some time for anyone who's here to ask any questions. For those of you on the live stream, there's not a Q&A format through there, but once again, you'll see a survey that will pop up in a minute or two. Please respond to the survey, or you can email me anytime if you have any questions. I had some great emails from parents after last week's session. I look forward to hearing from folks after this one as well. So I just want to reiterate the point, like the two big points, AI literacy and AI pilot use. When we talk about students using AI, those are the two areas that we're talking about K to 6. Controlled, specific. We want our kids to know what this technology is, what it can do. We want them to be exposed to it in a thoughtful, controlled manner that's safe. So that by the time they get to Hughes and then they get to Churchill, they'll be ready to use it appropriately. We're going to do more conversations with the community, with parents, so that they're aware of these things and know how to use them and know how to talk to their kids about this, because it's really important that we all work together. It takes a team effort, right? We all work together on this. So I just wanted to reiterate those points, and we're really excited for some of the things that are coming. So a couple things to keep in mind I want to leave you with here. I think that one of the things I've been saying to staff for the last year plus that I've been in this job, and even before that, is to embrace the challenges and opportunities. We don't have all the answers. We don't know where the technology is going to evolve to, but we have to identify the challenges. We can't be weighed down by them, but we also have to look at the opportunities. This is an exciting time in technology, and so I think that it's something that we really can embrace. We can innovate and bring back maybe some excitement and at times where where we have opportunities to do that. So I know I'm excited, and I'm excited for what we have coming down the pipe. Talk to kids, about appropriate technology use. Right? Ask questions. Not just about AI, but about social media. I think that those are things. Be honest and support appropriate use of all technology. I think we encourage our kids to be honest with us, and we got to be honest with them, and that's the best way we're going to keep them safe and also help them be effective. They live in a physical world, but they also live in a digital world. And I think that we maybe missed some of this when social media came out. It hit us so fast we didn't really have time to react. I do think we're doing a better job as a district, and in some ways as a society when it comes to AI. But it's a continual effort that we have to keep working at. Trust but verify. So anytime you get results from a Gen AI tool, I'm a history guy before I was a tech guy, and that's a phrase from the Cold War that Ronald Reagan used to use when talking about the Soviet Union. Trust but verify. I think it's the same thing with AI. Check your sources. It can hallucinate or make information up at times, and the AI tools will warn you about that. So just remind your children about that, and remind your friends too as they're dabbling with AI. I talked about equity and representation awareness, very critical. Please keep that in mind. If you get a result back that sounds a little, suspicious, ask more questions. Check other sources. Some of those tools that are going to send you to sources, see where they're generating that content from so that you know what's happening. Make sure AI content speaks with your voice. With the emails, we talked about that, the personally identifiable information. Privacy settings, very important. Children under 13 should not create accounts. Children under 18 need parent permission. So keep that in mind. If it's ultimately up to you when you talk to your kids about, You may not even be aware that they have ChatGPT. Or some of the students that we've talked to are like, oh, my mom, I think they know, or my dad, I think they know, right? Ask them. If you're not sure, ask your kids and talk with them about it. And I wouldn't say maybe take it away right away, or maybe as long as they understand responsible use, that's what's important, right? So just be aware of the privacy policies that each of these tools have. I'm going to leave this slide up, and I would just encourage people, if you haven't tried some of these tools, if you've tried one but not the other, pick a new one. Try it out. Think of a problem that you're trying to solve, or a task you're trying to do right now, and jump into the deep end of the pool. I'm giving everybody permission, right? Be brave, and if you're not ready to create an account, if you have a Gmail account, use Gemini, or jump on Perplexity. I really appreciate everyone coming out who was able to attend tonight. I appreciate folks taking time out of soccer practice or making dinner, or the number of things that parents and guardians do every day for our kids in our community, for joining us on the live stream. I hope that you'll come to future events or join us on future live streams. I hope that you'll reach out if you have any questions. I love getting emails from folks and continuing that conversation and learning more about ways that we can work together. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey, because that feedback is really critical and important to our work and continuing to make sure we're doing the best by every single child in this district and serving the community as best as we can. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night. Thank you again.